Hey there, friends. Before we get started, if you want to stay updated on my new videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button to support me. Alright, let's get into this story. You know, sometimes no matter how carefully you try to steer your life in the right direction, life always has a surprise waiting for you. My name is James. I'm 45 years old, and I've been working as a truck driver for years now. My older brother Jake used to do the same work with me. Even though we loved our job, there were times when we got really exhausted from it all. But one day, Jake headed out on a delivery run at night, just like he always did. Honestly, that day before Jake left for that trip, something was bothering me. He said, "I've got a bad feeling, like something terrible is going to happen." I told him, "What's gonna happen? This is your regular route. Is there anyone better at this job than you? You drive that rig like a pro. I even learned how to drive trucks from watching you, man." After I said that, he replied, "Yeah, you're right. I guess I'm just feeling a bit worn out from all the work lately. That's probably why I'm feeling this way. Anyway, I'm heading out now. Take care of yourself. I need you to forgive me for anything, just in case, little brother." Then he hugged me tight. After Jake hugged me, something strange filled my chest too. He climbed into the truck, started it up, and pulled away from the yard. I watched him carefully until he disappeared from sight. In my heart, I prayed, "God, please be his guide and protector." Just a few hours after he left, I wanted to call him to ask how he was doing and if everything was going okay. But he didn't answer his phone. When I called again later, I couldn't reach his phone at all. When I couldn't get through to his phone, that uneasy feeling inside me grew even stronger. I didn't know what to do. Maybe something happened to him, or maybe he fell asleep, I didn't know. But he wasn't the type to do something like that. He was dedicated to his work and very careful. I tried to convince myself that maybe his battery died or something. It was well past midnight. I waited a bit longer. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. No, I absolutely couldn't reach him. It was almost morning now. The sky was about to lighten up when my phone rang from an unknown number. My hands were trembling as I picked up the phone and answered it. The voice on the other end wasn't familiar at all, but this is what they said: "Mr. Jake has been in an accident. The last call on his phone was from you, and since it said, 'Brother,' next to your name, we thought it was right to contact you. You need to come to the hospital." I immediately asked for the hospital's location, jumped in my car, and rushed to where my brother was. When I arrived at the hospital, I realized he was about to take his last breath. I went to his side and held his hand. There were deep cuts all over his face and body. There wasn't a bone in his body that wasn't broken. He couldn't move at all. When he saw me, a single tear slowly rolled down from his eye. "Take care of yourself, Jim. I'm leaving now," he said. I tried to pull myself together, but I couldn't speak. Finally, forcing the words out, I said, "Jake, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry." The moment I finished saying that, my brother closed his eyes. In that moment, something inside me broke. It felt like my heart was in physical pain. I hugged him tightly. No sound came from my throat. I was crying on the inside. After that day, it felt like life had lost all its meaning for me. I had no family left. My mom and dad had passed away years ago. All I had left was my brother. He never got to be with the girl he loved. His dreams were left unfinished. And I was alone now, with no one. For a long time after that day, I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't go to work. I stayed home alone, basically destroying my own life. My friends kept visiting me constantly. They were there for me. But I wasn't even aware of when they came and went because nothing mattered to me anymore. A whole year passed after that incident. For an entire year, I stayed on my feet thanks to my friends. Without them, I probably would have just rotted away in that house. Among my friends, there was one person who loved me more than anyone else and really acted like a brother to me, Ismail. Ismail had also lost his mother and father at a very young age, just like us. In fact, his burden was even heavier than ours. He lost his wife and child in a traffic accident exactly 3 years ago. When he was about to completely disconnect from life, my brother and I were constantly by his side, supporting him. Now it was his turn, and he really came through for me. The first day I left the house, I went to visit my brother's grave. That day, I cried there one last time, letting it all out. I made peace with my brother and decided it was time to get my life back on track. 10 years passed since my brother's death. After that day, I absolutely never went out on night runs anymore. I only drove during the day. At night, I'd pull into rest stops and sleep there. But one day, my close work buddy Ray had to make a night delivery. However, due to a family problem, he couldn't go. There was no one else to go in his place. He begged me to do it. When I told him I couldn't do something like that and that I was sorry, he said, "Please, this is really important to me. I'm begging you. Plus, it's not even a long haul. You'll be there and back in no time. The roads are clean, it's paved highway all the way. There's no way you could get in an accident." He really pushed hard to get me to take that route. Finally, I had no choice but to agree. That day, I rested up really well and tried to pull myself together. Going out on a night run made me a bit nervous. I wasn't afraid of dying, it's just that whenever I thought about night driving, I couldn't get the image out of my head of my brother looking into my eyes that last time, those final breaths he took. That's why I didn't want to relive those memories over and over again. That evening came around. Before I got ready and hit the road, I recited some prayers several times. I made sure my phone was fully charged and took care of some other business, then I headed out. While I was driving, my friend Ray called. "How are you doing? How's the drive going?" he asked. "I'm good, don't worry, everything's fine," I said. "I'm sorry for dragging you into this. God willing, you'll make it there and back safe and sound," he said. "God willing," I replied. While I was talking to Ray, suddenly my phone shut off by itself. I figured the signal probably dropped, so I didn't think much of it and kept going. After driving a bit further, I had left the main highway. I had entered a quiet, peaceful road surrounded only by trees. As I was driving, I suddenly saw an old man standing at the far end of the road. He was waving at me. "What's this old guy doing out here at this hour?" I thought, and I stopped the truck. I rolled down the window and said, "Hey sir, what are you doing out here at this time of night?" The man was speaking in a really slow tone. I couldn't quite understand what he was saying. He gestured with his hand for me to come. He probably needs help, I thought, so I got out of the truck and went over to him. "Are you okay? Do you need help? Come on, let me give you a ride to wherever you're going," I said. I took the man by the arm and helped him into the truck. Doing out here at this hour? He wasn't someone who moved quickly either. I honestly had no idea where he disappeared to in a matter of seconds. Good grief, I thought. Every crazy person and lost soul in the world seems to find their way to me. I didn't want to stay around there any longer. I immediately jumped back into the truck, and then I was hit with a surprise. The truck wouldn't start. I tried over and over again, but it wouldn't work. The truck that had been running just moments ago now wouldn't start at all. I was sure I had done all the checks before leaving, but now, in the most ridiculous way, the vehicle wouldn't start. My nerves were shot. I did a few more checks. Everything seemed fine. There was no reason the truck shouldn't start. I couldn't figure out why this was happening. I tried to keep my nerves under control. I grabbed my phone to call Jason, our mechanic. Jason did all the repairs on our trucks. I wanted to call him to ask what the problem might be, but there was no signal. It was like all the bad luck in the world had found me. I spent at least an hour trying to get the truck to start, but it was no use. I didn't know this area at all. I thought maybe if there was at least a nearby town or something, I could ask them for help, but there was nothing. Everything around me was pitch black and surrounded by trees. I got back in the vehicle and shut the door. I started waiting. I don't know why, but I felt like I could hear people walking around outside, whispering to each other. Even when I looked outside or checked the mirrors, I couldn't see anything. I was alone in the middle of the darkness. Just when I was about to lose all hope, I saw a light appear behind me. I immediately got out of the truck and tried to stop the approaching car. The car that came up beside me slowed down. Inside were two young men. "What's up, man? What happened? Did your truck break down?" they asked. "Yeah, the truck broke down. I don't know why. Do you guys know anything about trucks?" I asked. One of the young men said, "Okay man, let us take a look." Both of the young men were tall and dressed in all black from head to toe. After these two friendly and sincere-seeming young guys checked the vehicle, one of them said, "Man, this isn't something we can fix. If you want, hop in our car. We'll take you to our town. The town's close by. Don't spend the night out here in your truck. Tomorrow we'll find a mechanic, bring him here, get your truck fixed, and then you can be on your way." I thought about it for a moment, then asked, "Can't we find a mechanic right now?" They both smiled and said, "Dude, it's 4 in the morning. Where are we gonna find a mechanic at this hour?" I froze for a second. I immediately looked at my watch. It really was 4 o'clock. But just 5 or 10 minutes ago when I checked, it had just passed midnight. Now it was 4 o'clock. When did so much time pass? Must be from the exhaustion of the drive, I thought, and realizing I didn't have any other options, I agreed to go with the young men. I locked all the doors and windows of the truck and went with them. While I sat in the back, they occasionally glanced at each other and smiled, but they didn't say a single word. After a bit, I asked, "What town do you guys live in?" The guy driving said, "We're from Crowfield. It's real close by. Don't worry, we'll be there in just a few minutes." Then he added, "By the way, we forgot to introduce ourselves. My name's Eric. This is my buddy Sam." While we were chatting, I don't know how it happened, but I dozed off. When I opened my eyes, Eric was waking me up. "Hey man, wake up. We're at the town." My whole body was stiff. I literally couldn't move. I pulled myself together a bit and got out of the car. The sky was almost bright, dawn was about to break. Eric said to me, "Come on man, let's go to my place. Tomorrow we'll see what we can do to help you out." "No, I can't just go to your house. You've got your mom, your siblings, and all," I started to say, but he cut me off. "Nah man, I don't have a mom or siblings. I live with just my dad. And I know he won't have any problem with this. He loves having guests," he said with a smile. While Eric was talking, he was looking right into my eyes, and it made me a bit uncomfortable. "Alright buddy, whatever you think is best," I said. We walked for a bit and then came to a house. Eric opened the door and went inside. He whispered to me, "Come on in, man." After I went inside, Eric brought me to a room. "This is my room. Make yourself comfortable." "I'll sleep on the couch tonight," he said. "Sorry for being such a bother," I said. "No problem, man. You're our guest." "Like I said, we love having guests," he replied. After Eric left, I went into the room. The room looked pretty clean and tidy. I lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in a long time, I had gone out on a night drive, and this was what happened. I hope nothing bad comes of this, I thought. I tried to close my eyes and sleep, but I couldn't. There was a strange feeling inside me again. This feeling was familiar to me. I had felt this same thing before when my brother hugged me and said goodbye, told me to forgive him. After that, I had never felt this way again. But I tried not to let it get to me. I tossed and turned in bed. I tried to pull myself together, but it didn't work. Eventually, realizing I wasn't going to fall asleep, I sat up in bed. The sun's going to come up soon anyway. I don't need to sleep. I'll just keep going afterward, I thought, and I looked at my watch. When I looked at my watch, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was 2 o'clock. I must be losing my mind. Just a little while ago, Eric had told me it was 4 o'clock, and I had actually seen that it was 4 when I checked my watch. When we got to town, the sky was about to lighten up. Now, though, it was still the middle of the night in the most absurd way, and it was 2 o'clock. I got up and went to the window. I looked outside. The sky was pitch black. I couldn't see anyone outside either. Of course, who would be outside at this hour? I thought. But then, by a tree in the distance, I saw a pair of eyes watching me. I was scared in that moment. I immediately closed the curtain and backed away. What the hell was that? I said. I couldn't disturb the people in the house. The best thing to do was wait for morning and get out of here. I lay back down on the bed and started messing with my phone. Since I wasn't someone who spent much time on my phone, there wasn't much to look at. Just a few photos taken at work sites. That was it. My phone was as boring as my life, really. I had only been scrolling through my phone for a few minutes when I got a low battery warning. My phone was about to die. My nerves were fried. This was impossible. I had fully charged my phone before hitting the road. For this to happen now was infuriating. But I wasn't going to lose control. No matter what, I was going to keep my cool. Best thing to do is just sleep, I thought, and I laid my head on the pillow. I tried to fall asleep, and before long, I drifted off. In my dream, I saw that I was back in the truck. Just as I was about to get out of the vehicle, I saw that there were tall people dressed in black all around. Among them were Eric and Sam. I could only see their faces. Their eyes were completely black, and their faces had a strange expression on them. Honestly, this scene freaked me out a bit, so I didn't get out. I tried to start the truck, but unfortunately, it wouldn't work. I could hear the strange cries of those beings around me. Eric and Sam were standing right in front of the truck, insisting that I get out. But I didn't want to get out because I could see that they weren't human anymore. Those beings around me were kicking and punching my truck. I immediately started praying. The more I prayed, the louder the sounds, the screams, and the shrieks around me became. Suddenly, I looked carefully at my hands. My nails had turned completely black, and in the palm of my hand was a strange symbol whose meaning I didn't know. I tried to wipe it away, but I couldn't. It was like it had been carved into my skin. I raised my head and looked outside again. There was no one around. Everything looked normal. The sounds had stopped too. I examined the area. I looked everywhere through the mirrors. The surroundings seemed calm. I looked for my phone but couldn't find it. Then I saw a car coming from behind. Just as it was about to pull up beside me, I got out and stopped them, hoping they could help. When the car came up next to me, I froze for a moment. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Two young men got out. "Hey man, you okay? Did your truck break down?" they said. I thought this must be a dream and tried to wake myself up from it. But no, it wasn't a dream. This was completely real. My mind was spinning. The young men looked at me carefully. "If you're not feeling well, we can take you to a doctor if you want," they said. I asked them, "What are your names?" "My name's Eric, and this is my friend Sam," one of them said. "No, this can't be possible," I said, putting my head in my hands. I paced back and forth while they watched me with confused expressions. "Man, are you okay? Is everything all right?" they asked. "Yes, I'm fine. But I've seen you before. You passed by here in this same car, picked me up, and took me to your town. You even opened your house to me, gave me your room. I fell asleep there, and then I woke up here," I said. They didn't respond. They just silently listened to what I was saying. Eric said to me, "Man, we're just passing through here now. We didn't come by earlier." Then he corrected himself, we did pass through this morning. We went into the city. We finished our business and now we're heading back." In that moment, I immediately looked at my watch. It was 1 o'clock. Eric said, "If you want, man, come to our town. Be our guest for the night. Tomorrow we'll find a mechanic, bring him here, get your truck fixed, and then you can be on your way." "No, I can't wait until tomorrow. I need to get this fixed today and get back on the road," I said. Eric smiled. "Man, it's 4 in the morning. Where are we gonna find a mechanic? Everyone's asleep right now." "No, it's not 4 o'clock. Look, it's 1, I said, showing him my watch. Yeah, it's 4. "Look, man," he said. I immediately looked at my watch. It really was 4 o'clock. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, trying to get a grip on myself. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. My nerves were on edge. Sam wasn't saying a word, just staring at him. "Why aren't you saying anything? Tell me. Didn't you just drive by here and pick me up? Didn't you help me?" I said. Eric said, "Man, he can't talk." In that moment, I felt terrible. Maybe I was stuck inside some ridiculous nightmare and couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. Eric put his hand on my shoulder. "Man, don't stay out here. This place isn't safe at all. Come with us." The moment Eric touched me, it felt like my whole body went empty. I couldn't resist him. It was like he had hypnotized me. On the drive, again, no one said a single word. I occasionally looked out the window, but I couldn't see anything. The roads were completely dark. Soon we arrived at the town. I got out of the car, and it was the same setting, the same scene. I went to Eric's house with him. We went inside, and when we got to the room, he said, "You stay here, man. This is my room. I'll sleep in the living room," and then he turned and left. I went inside. In that moment, I experienced what was probably the most terrifying moment of my entire life. Because I was in that bed. My body was rotting and reeking. My arms and legs were separated from my body. A huge piece of metal was lodged in my head. My eyes weren't in their sockets. My mouth was torn open all the way to my ears. When I saw that scene, I collapsed and passed out right there. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but suddenly I heard Eric's voice. I opened my eyes and looked around. The sky had brightened. Sunlight was streaming in through the window. Eric's voice was coming from behind the door. I immediately got up from the bed and headed toward the door. When I opened the door, I came face to face with Eric. "Good morning, man. Breakfast is ready. I figured I'd wake you up. After breakfast, we'll find the mechanic and get your truck fixed," he said. I didn't know what to say. The ridiculous nightmare I experienced last night had really affected me. That's why I couldn't answer him, I just nodded my head yes. I closed the door and went back inside. I sat on the edge of the bed for a bit, lost in deep thought. What I went through last night was so realistic that the fact it was a nightmare made me a little happy, at least. After pulling myself together a bit, I straightened up my clothes and went to the living room. Eric was waiting for me in the living room. "Come on, man, let's have breakfast," he said. "Your dad didn't wake up?" I wish I could say hi to him. "After all, I stayed in his house," I said. "Nah man, my dad woke up early this morning and went to take the animals out to graze. You sit down and eat your breakfast. I'll be right back," he said. When I sat down at the table, my stomach suddenly started to turn. I felt full, like I had already eaten, even though I hadn't touched anything yet. Eric came over with a basket of bread and sat down. He immediately poured me some coffee. "Come on, man, eat up. In a bit, I'll go find a mechanic for your truck," he said. Not wanting to be rude, I nibbled on a few bites of something. After we finished eating, we left the house together, and I paused for a moment. Because outside, the weather was gray and unsettling. Just a little while ago, when I looked out the window, the weather had been sunny. Now it was completely different. When I stepped outside, my body went ice cold. My hair stood on end. I turned to Eric and asked, "Do you feel anything strange?" "No, the weather's always like this around here," he said, and kept walking. I walked alongside him. We walked to the town square. A few people were sitting at a cafe. The moment they saw us from a distance, everyone fixed their eyes on us. Their stares made me very uncomfortable, but I tried not to pay too much attention to it. We approached the people there. Eric went up to one of the men and asked, "Have you seen Hank around?" The people there shook their heads no. He turned to me and said, "Man, why don't you sit here and have some tea? I'll go find Hank and come back." "Who's Hank?" I asked. "He's the mechanic. We're going to take you to your truck, get it fixed, and send you on your way," he said. "All right, but hurry up," I said. Eric walked away quickly while I looked for an empty table. Then one of the men stood up. "Come sit with us," he said. "Okay," I said, and sat down with them. The man said to me, "My name's Carl. I was born and raised in this town. The people in this town aren't very helpful. Everyone does their own thing, tries to solve their own problems. But Eric and his dad, they're different. They help everyone in this town." "Yeah, that's true. Thank God for them. He picked me up off the road last night and brought me here. I was in a tough spot. I don't know what I would have done without them," I said. While we were talking, the men in the cafe got up one by one and quickly disappeared. In the end, it was just the two of us left. Not long after, Eric came back with quick steps. "Man, I talked to him. He'll be here in an hour at the latest. You want to walk around a bit?" "What do you say?" he asked. "Nah, thanks. Let's just wait here. Otherwise, the guy might come and not find us. Let him get here so we can go." "I'm already really late," I said. "All right man, whatever you want," he said. Carl looked at Eric and said, "Eric, come here. I need to tell you something." He grabbed him by the arm and pulled him aside. They moved a bit away from me and started talking. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see that Carl was upset. I looked around a bit. The town was pretty old. There was no one else around besides us. While I was sipping my tea, suddenly a heavy weight came over me. I felt the urge to sleep. I looked around to make sure no one was watching. I slowly leaned against the table and put my face in my hands. I closed my eyes. It felt like I hadn't slept at all the night before, and I was about to collapse right there. I was so tired. I only closed my eyes for a few seconds, or at least that's what it felt like to me. When I opened my eyes, it had already gotten dark. I jolted up in a panic. I looked left and right. There was no one around. My tea was still sitting in front of me. Eric. Eric, where are you? I called out several times, but there was no one. I didn't know where to go. This town was strange during the day, but at night it was something else entirely. I could hear strange sounds coming from the houses, whose lights were on. I started walking quickly toward Eric's house. I didn't even know if I was going the right way. At least if I saw a house with the lights on, I could ask for help there, but there wasn't. None of the houses had any lights on. I had to walk faster and faster because I kept hearing strange sounds, and it felt like those sounds were getting closer to me. Finally, I stopped in front of a house. This was probably the house where Eric lived. I say, probably, because the houses here all looked so similar. I went in through the yard gate and headed toward the front door. I knocked a few times. Soon I started to hear footsteps from inside the house. A moment later, the door opened, but there was no one at the door. It was as if the door had opened by itself. Eric, is that you? I said. A whispered voice from inside said, come in. I gathered my courage and went inside, and the door slammed shut behind me on its own. Only the moonlight streaming in through the window was lighting up the house. I couldn't see the inside of the house very clearly, but I kept hearing whispers coming from the room inside. I went toward where the sound was coming from. It was even darker in there, but there was movement in the darkness. I stood by the door and carefully looked inside. No matter how carefully I looked, I couldn't see anything. Suddenly, there was a deep silence. The movement inside the darkness stopped, and it felt like a cold, light breeze passed by me. Even though this breeze was light, it made my whole body shiver. Suddenly, I turned around. In that moment, I felt like a shadow had passed behind me. I was scared. I moved quickly toward the front door, but then I stopped in my tracks because there was no door there anymore. It was so strange. I was sure I had just come through that door. Now, though, the door was a wall. I ran my hand along the wall, trying to find the light switch. I finally found it and turned on the lights. The moment the lights came on, my breath stopped. Because there wasn't a single piece of furniture in the house. On the walls were large Arabic writings. On every wall was a strange symbol with a huge eye on top of it. All around the house were used candles, bloody cloths, and sharp tools. All of those tools had dried blood on them. The floor was completely covered with dried blood, and on the floor was drawn another strange symbol. In the very center of the symbols was a thick layer of dried blood. It looked absolutely horrible. I immediately started praying. The scene I was seeing was going to drive me insane. The windows in the house were boarded up from the inside. So how was I going to get out? Once again, my only option was to seek refuge in God. God, I'm begging you. Please get me out of here. Please, I'm begging you, I said, seeking God's protection over and over again. Before long, I heard screams and moans coming from the rooms inside again. Mixed in with these moans were even laughter. The sounds I heard were echoing inside me. I tried every way to get out of the house, and thank God, I finally managed to escape. When I got out onto the street, I saw that every house had its lights on, and in the windows were tall black figures whose faces I couldn't quite see, watching me. It looked terrifying. I started running toward the exit. As I ran, I could hear their cries behind me. At one point, I gathered the courage to look back, and I saw that the town was literally burning to the ground. Even today, when that scene comes to my mind, my hair stands on end. I kept running until I finally got out of the town. I don't need to run anymore. I can walk and rest a bit, I thought, and I tried to find the truck in the darkness. I walked for a long time, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, I have no idea. My sense of time was definitely messed up. I was so tired. Finally, I came to the front of the truck. I was so relieved I broke down in tears. I started crying. Then I opened my eyes. In that moment, I felt numbness in my hands and feet. I immediately looked at my hands. My nails had turned completely black. This was very strange. Did the curse from that town transfer to me? I wondered. Then I heard a car coming from behind. Just as I was about to get out of the truck, I hesitated for a moment. It's probably Eric and Sam again. This time I'm not going to believe them. I'm not going to start this nightmare all over again. The car sped past me. I realized it wasn't their car. I was so disappointed. I wish I could have stopped them, I thought. But the car went a little further, stopped, and started backing up toward me. I was so happy. I immediately got out of the truck and went over to them. Inside was a middle-aged man, a woman who seemed to be about the same age, and 2 kids in the back. The man stopped his car next to me. Please help me. I don't know how many hours I've been waiting here, I said. The man looked me up and down, then said, there's no point in standing around here in the middle of the night. Come with us. We'll host you for the night. Tomorrow we'll find a mechanic for you. These words sounded very familiar to me. What town are you going to? I asked the man. Crowfield, he said, and then he smiled. In that moment, I took a few steps back. The man's disturbing smile is still in front of my eyes. Suddenly, his eyes turned completely black. Black foam started coming out of his mouth. The screams of the woman and children in the car were literally going to deafen my ears. I ran away from them and got into the truck. When I got into the truck, that car was no longer there. I was stuck in this cursed place. Once again, I had no choice but to seek refuge in God. I prayed over and over. I sought God's protection. Maybe I, too, like my brother, was going to give up my life on this cursed road. 1,000 different scenarios were running through my mind when suddenly I heard a sound. It was my phone ringing. I immediately started looking for my phone. It had fallen under the seat. I quickly grabbed my phone. When I looked, I saw that it was Ismail calling. I was so relieved. The moment I answered the phone, he said, "How are you doing? How's the trip going?" I said to him, "It's not what you think. Terrible things have happened to me. I can't get out of here. Send me help right away." "Where are you? Tell me exactly where you are," he said. "I don't know exactly where I am, but everyone who passes by here says this place is near Crowfield. I've never heard of such a town before. Have you?" I asked. There was a deep silence on the other end. "Hello? Hello? Ismail, are you there?" I said, but I got no answer. Maybe the call dropped, I thought, so I checked, but the phone was still connected. "Ismail, can you hear me?" I asked. Stuttering, he said, "James, get away from there right now." "How am I supposed to get away? The truck broke down. I can't leave. And the people passing by here are strange. It's like they've lost their minds," I said. Ismail said to me, "Lock your doors right now, and no matter what you see or hear, absolutely do not get out." "Okay, but why? Do you know something?" I asked. "Yes, I know. Crowfield was cursed years ago. There are all kinds of stories and legends told about that town. According to what the people from a nearby town called Stoneridge say, there was a curse in Crowfield whose origin nobody knows. This curse took over everyone's lives in a short time. Children disappeared overnight. Later, all the elderly people were found dead for unknown reasons. The people who remained either lost their minds and attacked each other, or they fled the town. And many of the people who escaped from there also lost their lives shortly after. So no one made it out of that town alive." "Don't tell me you went into that town," he said. "I don't know. I met two young guys. They said they'd help me and took me to that town. And ever since I went there, I've been seeing ridiculous things, experiencing strange things," I said. "Look, I'm going to tell you a prayer right now. Recite it 7 times, but say it with true belief, sincerely. This prayer will save you from that road. No matter who approaches you, no matter who offers to help you, absolutely do not accept. Don't be afraid of anything. Remember, they only feed on the fear inside you. Do what I tell you, and then call me back," he said. "Please don't hang up the phone," I said. "Okay, fine. Put the phone on speaker and repeat what I say," he said. I did exactly that. I put the phone aside. Ismail taught me the prayer. I recited the prayer 7 times, just as Hector. I didn't know if the truck would start, but one last time, I invoked God's name, said, "In the name of God," and tried to start the truck. Thank God, the truck started. I had never thought a prayer could be this effective. In that moment, I broke down in tears of joy. I immediately continued on my way. Throughout the drive, I talked to Ismail and told him everything I had experienced, one by one. He said to me, "I wish you had never taken that road. I wish you had told me beforehand where you were going. I never would have let you go." "I don't know, maybe this was my test too," I said. Finally, I arrived at the address I was supposed to deliver to. I completed my work there and drove back home. When I got home, I met up with Ismail. We hugged each other tightly. Ismail said to me, "I'm so happy to see you safe and sound. Remember, no matter what trouble you face, no matter what happens, always put your hope in God. He is the only one who can see you everywhere, at all times, and help you. Never lose hope in him." He was right. Prayers saved me from inside that curse. After this incident, I started researching the places I was going beforehand and only then hitting the road. Actually, every event we experience is a test for us. Of course, the important thing is to learn a lesson from these tests after we pass them. I, too, learned my lesson from this test. A long time passed after this incident. Thank God, I absolutely wasn't experiencing things like that anymore. But once, I saw my brother in a dream. He said this to me, "Thank God you made it out of there safe and sound." I absolutely would not have wanted our fates to be the same. This dream made me think for days. Maybe my brother had encountered these kinds of things too. Maybe my brother didn't die from his own destiny, but because of those beings. I thought about this incident for days. But no matter what, it was already in the past now. My brother wasn't alive, but I was, and I had to live my life properly. That's the end of the story, friends. Thank you so much for listening. I love you all very much. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you can stay updated on new videos coming out. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there on those roads, folks. And remember, some places are better left untraveled, especially after dark.